The message. Ambassador Maya Chen stood at the window of her quarters aboard the Earth vessel Defiance, watching distant stars blur past as they approached the stellar Concordat's capital world. Her reflection showed a woman of middle years, her face bearing the quiet determination that had made her Earth's choice for this mission. In her hand, she held a quantum crystal containing humanity's message, their final warning to an empire that had devastated countless civilizations. "We're approaching the boundary of Concordat space, Ambassador." Captain Sarah Rodriguez's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Their patrol vessels are moving to intercept." "Acknowledged, Captain. Let them come." The massive Concordat vessels emerged from hyperspace, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the starlight. They dwarfed the Defiance, their weapons arrays clearly visible, a not-so-subtle reminder of their supposed superiority. "Unidentified vessel, you have entered Concordat space. State your purpose or be destroyed." The alien transmission crackled through the bridge speakers. Maya took her place on the bridge, standing tall beside Captain Rodriguez. "This is Ambassador Maya Chen of Earth. We come with a message for the Concordat High Council. Priority Diplomatic Clearance Code Theta 97. There was a long pause. Maya knew what was happening. The Concordat was scanning their ship, trying to determine if it posed any threat. They would find nothing concerning. That was precisely the point. "Clearance granted," came the reply, though the tone carried clear disdain. "Follow our escort to Centaurus Prime. Any deviation will be met with immediate force." As they followed the escort ships toward the Concordat capital, Maya caught Captain Rodriguez's questioning glance. The captain was one of the few who knew the full scope of what was about to happen. "Are you certain about this, Ambassador? Once we deliver this message, there's no going back." Maya's expression remained resolute. "They've left us no choice, Sarah. We've watched for too long as they've systematically destroyed or enslaved every spacefaring race they've encountered. They think we're just another primitive species they can intimidate or destroy at their leisure. Today, they learned differently." The approach to Centaurus Prime revealed a world of impossible architecture, crystalline spires that stretched into the upper atmosphere, vast floating cities that defied gravity, all showcasing the Concordat's technological might. It was meant to inspire awe and fear in visiting species. Maya felt neither. The landing pad they were directed to sat at the base of the Council spire, a structure that rose so high its peak was lost in the clouds. A delegation of Concordat officials waited for them. Tall, crystalline beings whose bodies seemed to shift and flow like liquid glass. Their leader, Administrator Vex, stepped forward. "Ambassador Chen." Vex's translated voice carried the same condescension she'd heard in the patrol ship's communications. "The High Council is curious about what could be so important that Earth would send a representative unannounced." Maya met the administrator's gaze steadily. "What I have to say must be delivered to the full council." "The council does not convene at the demand of lesser species," Vex began, but Maya cut him off. "They will convene for this." She held up the quantum crystal. "Or would you like to explain to them why you turned away an ambassador carrying proof of your attacks on the Arcturus colonies?" The crystalline being's form rippled with what might have been surprise or anger. It was hard to tell with their alien physiology. After a moment, Vex gestured for them to follow. The council chamber was vast, its walls lined with hovering platforms where representatives of the Concordat's various facets waited. The High Council themselves sat at the chamber's apex, their forms larger and more elaborate than their subordinates. Maya noted how they looked down on the chamber's floor where petitioners stood, another calculated show of dominance. "Speak, human," the first speaker's translated voice boomed through the chamber. "Tell us what brings you to interrupt the council's important matters." Maya activated the quantum crystal, projecting its contents for all to see. Images filled the air. Concordat ships attacking civilian colonies, secret military installations, weapon tests conducted on populated worlds. With each image, the chamber grew more silent. "For decades, you've believed yourselves unseen and unopposed." Maya's voice carried clearly through the vast space. You've conquered and subjugated dozens of species, all while preparing to do the same to Earth. You thought we were blind. We were not. You thought we were helpless. We are not." She paused, letting her words sink in. "This is humanity's message to the stellar Concordat. Your expansion ends now. Withdraw your forces from occupied territories. Release your subjected species. If you do not comply within one standard cycle, humanity will respond with force." Laughter echoed through the chamber, exactly as Maya had expected. The first speaker's form rippled with amusement. "You dare threaten the Concordat? Your species barely has a presence beyond your own system. What possible force could you bring to bear against us?" Maya smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You believe you know the extent of Earth's capabilities. You believe you've seen all we can do. You are wrong. We have watched, we have learned, and we have prepared. If you force our hand, we will bring a war unlike anything your empire has ever faced. Your worlds will burn. Your fleets will be scattered. Your empire will fall." "These are bold words from a species we could crush with but a fraction of our might," another council member interjected. "We do not make threats," Maya replied calmly. "We make promises. You have one cycle to comply. Choose wisely." She turned and walked toward the chamber's exit, ignoring the outraged shouts and demands that followed. Captain Rodriguez was waiting at the doorway, her hand resting casually near her sidearm. "Time to go, Ambassador." Maya nodded. "Time to go, Captain. They've made their choice. Now they face the consequences." As the Defiance lifted off from Centaurus Prime, Maya sent a coded quantum transmission, a single word that would set in motion events decades in the planning. Across the galaxy, hidden human facilities began to power up. Stealth fleets emerged from their dimensional pockets. Special forces teams activated in the heart of Concordat space. The stellar Concordat had dismissed humanity's warning as empty bravado. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Hidden strength. Deep within the asteroid belt of the Proxima Centauri system, Fleet Admiral James Chen watched holographic displays flicker to life across the command center of Operation Bastion. The facility, carved into the heart of a metallic asteroid nearly a decade ago, represented just one piece of humanity's careful preparation for this moment. "Status report," he commanded, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. Commander Diana Santos stepped forward, her dark eyes scanning data streams. "All command nodes are responding. Admiral, the quantum mesh network is fully operational. Strike teams report ready status across all sectors." James nodded, allowing himself a moment to appreciate the magnitude of what humanity had accomplished in secret. While the Concordat watched Earth's official military installations and tracked their registered fleet movements, they had missed the true scope of human preparation. "Show me Nexus Point," he ordered. The holographic display shifted, revealing a massive structure hidden in the chromosphere of a red dwarf star. The quantum shipyards had been humanity's greatest technological achievement, and their best-kept secret. James watched as the first wave of stealth vessels emerged from their dimensional shields, ships unlike anything the Concordat had ever encountered. "The Harbinger-class vessels are reporting optimal status," Diana reported. "Quantum drive cores are stable, and dimensional phasing systems are operating within expected parameters." The ships represented a convergence of technologies the Concordat believed impossible, quantum manipulation far beyond their understanding, dimensional phasing that rendered vessels virtually undetectable, and weapons that could tear apart the fabric of space itself. "And our allies?" James asked. Diana's expression softened slightly. "The resistance movements are in position. The Arcturus survivors have distributed our quantum weaponry to their cells. The Novari underground confirms their shield networks are ready to fall on our signal." It had been a massive undertaking, secretly contacting and arming resistance movements among the species the Concordat had conquered. Each group had been carefully chosen, trained, and equipped over years of covert operations. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Defiance." The message was brief, a single word that set everything in motion. James straightened, his voice carrying across the command center. "Initialize Operation Sunbreak. All units, execute according to plan." Across human space, hidden facilities hummed to life. Quantum cores powered up, dimensional shields dropped, and vessels that had never appeared on any official registry emerged from their hiding places. In the cores of gas giants, beneath the surfaces of seemingly abandoned moons, and in the coronas of stars, humanity's true military might revealed itself. On 100 occupied worlds, resistance fighters received quantum-encrypted signals. Weapons caches were opened, shield generators powered up, and years of careful planning began to bear fruit. Aboard the command carrier Nemesis, Captain Yuki Tanaka watched her tactical display light up as vessels joined her battle group. The ships moved with practiced precision, taking formation around her flagship. Each crew had trained for years in virtual simulations, preparing for this moment. "All vessels reporting ready, Captain," her XO reported. Quantum drives spooled and dimensional phases synchronized. Yuki allowed herself a small smile. The Concordat believed they knew the limits of human technology. They thought they understood what humanity was capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Execute dimensional jump on my mark." In the space of a breath, hundreds of ships vanished from normal space, slipping between the dimensions in a way the Concordat's sensors couldn't track. They would emerge at predetermined points throughout Concordat space, striking critical targets before the Empire could even realize they were under attack. Back in Operation Bastion, James watched as reports began flowing in. Resistance cells activating across Concordat space, stealth fleets moving into position, special operations teams emerging from deep cover to strike at critical infrastructure. "Sir," Diana's voice carried an edge of concern. "The Concordat High Command is ordering their fleets to high alert. They're beginning to realize something is wrong." James nodded grimly. Too late. They'd had decades to choose a different path. Now they faced the consequences of their arrogance. On his tactical display, he watched as the first human strike groups reached their targets. The Concordat was about to learn that they weren't dealing with a primitive species that could be easily cowed or conquered. They were facing an enemy that had spent years preparing for this very moment. "Send word to all commands," James ordered, his voice steady. "Operation Sunbreak is now fully active. Show them what humanity is truly capable of." As his orders spread across the quantum mesh network, humanity's hidden strength emerged from the shadows. The Concordat had dismissed their warning as empty threats. Now they would learn just how wrong they had been. First strike. Captain Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Nemesis as her battle group emerged from dimensional space. Before them lay the Concordat's primary shipyards in the Vega sector, massive crystalline structures that had produced the warships that terrorized countless civilizations. The Concordat's defenders hadn't even raised their shields yet. "All ships, weapons free," Yuki commanded. "Execute strike pattern Delta." The human fleet moved with lethal precision. Quantum-tipped missiles phased through the Concordat's supposedly impenetrable shields, striking critical systems with surgical accuracy. Dimensional torpedoes created localized rifts that tore apart crystalline hulls. The supposedly mighty Concordat defense fleet found themselves facing weapons that ignored their most advanced defenses. Multiple Concordat vessels attempting emergency jumps, her tactical officer reported. Their FTL signatures are destabilizing. Yuki nodded grimly. The quantum inhibitors were working exactly as designed, trapping the Concordat ships in normal space. Years of studying their technology had revealed the weaknesses in their faster-than-light systems. Across Concordat space, similar scenes played out. Hidden human fleets struck key military installations, communication hubs, and command centers. The carefully coordinated attacks had been planned down to the millisecond, giving the Concordat no time to mount an effective response. On the occupied world of Arcturus Prime, Resistance leader Kira Mason watched as the planetary defense grid suddenly went dark. Her team had spent years infiltrating the control systems, placing quantum viruses that lay dormant until this moment. All cells, execute, she transmitted through their secure quantum network. Across the planet's surface, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. Armed with human-provided weapons, they struck at Concordat administrative centers and military bases. In orbit, dimensional rifts tore open as human stealth ships appeared. Their weapons targeted the Concordat's ground-based weapons with precision, clearing the way for dropships carrying Earth's elite quantum marines. Aboard Operation Bastion, Admiral James Chen watched the tactical displays with intense focus. Reports flooded in from across Concordat space, successful strikes, resistance uprisings, critical systems falling to coordinated attacks. "Sir," Commander Santos reported, "the Concordat's quantum communication network is fragmenting. Their command and control structure is breaking down." James allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Concordat had built their empire on technological superiority, never imagining that a primitive species could not only match but exceed their capabilities. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered. "Deploy the quantum mesh disruptors." Across human battle groups, specialized devices activated. The technology, developed through years of careful study of Concordat communications, began systematically destroying their ability to coordinate their forces. What had once been a unified empire found itself suddenly fractured into isolated sectors. On Centaurus Prime, the Concordat High Council gathered in emergency session. The chamber that had hosted humanity's warning just days before now echoed with panicked reports and desperate demands for action. Impossible. First Speaker Vex's crystalline form rippled with rage. How could they possess such technology? How could they strike us so deeply? "Multiple sectors are going dark," another council member reported, their translated voice carrying clear fear. "We're losing contact with our fleet elements. The quantum network is failing." In the midst of their panic, a new hologram appeared in the chamber center. Ambassador Maya Chen's image stared at them with calm determination. "We warned you," she stated simply. "We gave you the chance to change course. You chose to ignore us. Now you face the consequences of that choice. You cannot do this." Vex raged. "We are the Concordat. We have ruled the galaxy for millennia." "Your rule was built on the suffering of others," Maya replied. "That ends today. Surrender now, or what you've seen so far will seem gentle compared to what comes next." The hologram vanished, leaving the council in stunned silence. Outside their chamber windows, they watched as dimensional rifts tore open in the sky above their capital. Human ships emerged, their weapons already targeting key military installations. Back aboard the Nemesis, Captain Tanaka received new orders through the quantum mesh network. The Concordat's primary fleet anchorage lay ahead, their ships trapped by quantum inhibitors and in complete disarray. "All ships, form up on my mark," she commanded. "Show them what humanity can really do." As her battle group moved into attack position, Yuki reflected on how long humanity had prepared for this moment. The Concordat had dismissed them as primitives, never imagining that those primitives had spent years studying their every weakness, developing countermeasures to their every advantage. Now they would learn the price of their arrogance. The real war was just beginning, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of when pushed too far. The breaking point. Deep within the crystalline depths of Centaurus Prime, First Speaker Vex accessed ancient security protocols that hadn't been used in millennia. The chamber hummed with forbidden energy as holographic displays revealed a weapon the Concordat had sworn never to use again. "The Starforge cannot be controlled," High Commander Lysix warned, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. "The last time it was activated, it destroyed 3 solar systems. We face extinction." Vex's translated voice carried an edge of madness. "If we must burn worlds to survive, so be it." In Operation Bastion, alarms blared through the command center. Admiral James Chen stared at the energy readings with growing horror. "What are we looking at, Commander?" Diana Santos' fingers flew across holographic controls. Massive power buildup detected in the Centaurus system. The energy signature. "Sir, it's unlike anything we've ever seen." On the quantum mesh network, urgent reports flooded in from deep cover operatives. The Concordat was activating something called the Starforge, a weapon capable of inducing artificial supernovas. "Alert all commands," James ordered, his voice tight with tension. "Priority 1 warning. The Concordat is preparing to deploy a stellar-scale weapon. All forces in potentially affected systems are to evacuate immediately." Aboard the Nemesis, Captain Yuki Tanaka received the warning with grim determination. Her battle group had just finished neutralizing the Concordat's fleet anchorage when the evacuation order came through. "Multiple quantum signatures detected," her sensor officer reported. "Concordat reinforcements emerging from deep space." "They're different, Captain. These ships are ancient." Yuki watched as crystalline vessels of enormous size emerged from quantum space, warships from the Concordat's distant past, brought out of mothballs in their desperation. "They're powering up some kind of temporal weapon," the tactical officer warned. "Energy readings are off the scale. All ships, evasive pattern Omega," Yuki commanded. "Deploy quantum countermeasures." The space around them warped as the Concordat vessels fired, temporal energy lashing out to age matter into dust. Human ships phased between dimensions, their quantum drives barely keeping them ahead of the devastating weapons. On Arcturus Prime, Kira Mason led her resistance fighters in a desperate retreat. The Concordat forces, driven by fear and rage, had abandoned all pretense of precision. They were systematically destroying entire cities to crush the uprising. "This is Mason to all cells," she broadcast on their secure channel. "Fall back to evacuation points. The Concordat is burning everything. We need to get our people out." In orbit, human dropships braved intense fire to rescue as many civilians as possible. The Quantum Marines fought street by street, buying time for evacuations with their lives. Ambassador Maya Chen, watching the escalating destruction from her command post, made a decision. "Admiral Chen, this has to end. The Concordat would rather destroy everything than admit defeat. We need to deploy the Prometheus Protocol." James Chen closed his eyes briefly, knowing what that meant. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's ultimate weapon, a device capable of severing a star system's connection to quantum space itself, effectively cutting it off from the rest of the galaxy forever. The collateral damage would be catastrophic, he warned. "We'd be trapping billions of beings, including many innocents. If we don't stop them now, they'll destroy everything," Maya countered. "The Starforge won't just kill planets. It will cascade through space, triggering supernovas across hundreds of light years. We're out of options." James nodded grimly. "Commander Santos, begin Prometheus deployment sequence. Alert all commands. We're initiating our final contingency." As the orders spread through the quantum mesh network, human forces began a fighting retreat from Concordat space. They couldn't risk being caught in the aftermath of what was to come. On Centaurus Prime, the Starforge pulsed with terrifying power. Vex watched with savage satisfaction as the weapon charged. "Let them see what happens when they challenge their betters. We'll burn their worlds to ash." But in their desperation to activate the ancient weapon, the Concordat had missed the quantum signature of a single human stealth ship slipping through their defenses. Aboard, a team of specialists prepared to deploy the Prometheus device, knowing they would be trapped here with their enemies when it activated. The galaxy stood on the brink. In their drive for victory, both sides prepared to unleash weapons that would forever change the face of space itself. The only question was who would strike first, and could anything survive the aftermath? Dawn of change. Lieutenant Sarah Connor led her team through the crystalline corridors of the Starforge facility, their quantum stealth fields keeping them invisible to Concordat sensors. The massive weapon thrummed with power above them, its energy signature growing stronger by the second. 2 minutes until the Starforge reaches critical mass, her second-in-command whispered through their neural link. After that, nothing will stop the cascade. Sarah checked the Prometheus device in her pack. Then we make sure it doesn't reach critical mass, maintain stealth protocol, and proceed to the primary core. Aboard the Nemesis, Captain Yuki Tanaka's battle group fought a desperate holding action against the Concordat's ancient warships. The quantum mesh network buzzed with reports of similar battles across space as human forces drew enemy attention away from Centaurus Prime. Connor team is in position, her comm officer reported, awaiting final authorization for Prometheus deployment. Yuki watched as another of her ships vanished in a temporal blast, its crew sacrificing themselves to keep the Concordat forces engaged. "The cost is already too high," she whispered. "Make it count, Lieutenant." In Operation Bastion, Admiral James Chen and Ambassador Maya Chen made their final attempt to prevent catastrophe. Their quantum transmission cut through the Concordat's communications network, broadcasting directly into their High Council chamber. "This is your final warning." Maya's voice rang out. "We know you've activated the Starforge. We know what it can do. If you proceed, we will have no choice but to respond with equal force." First Speaker Vex's laughter echoed through the channel. "You dare threaten us now? The Starforge will reduce your worlds to atoms. The galaxy will learn what happens to those who challenge the Concordat." "Look around you," James cut in. "Your empire is falling. Your subject worlds are in revolt. Is your pride worth the destruction of everything?" "Better destruction than submission to lesser beings," Vex snarled. "Activate the Starforge. Let them burn." Deep in the facility, Sarah's team reached the core chamber. Ancient crystalline technology pulsed with devastating power, building toward the moment it would unleash its stellar killing force. "Prometheus device armed," her tech specialist reported. "But sir, the energy readings from the Starforge, if we trigger the device now, the reaction between them could be unprecedented." Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Their simulations hadn't accounted for this level of power from the ancient weapon. The interaction between the Prometheus device and the Starforge could create something far worse than either weapon alone. She opened a direct channel to Operation Bastion. "Admiral, the energy levels are beyond our projections. If we proceed, we risk creating a quantum cascade that could rip apart space-time itself." In the command center, James and Maya shared a look. Everything had led to this moment, but the cost of either weapon's deployment could be catastrophic. Maya stepped forward. "Vex, listen to me. Your sensors must be showing you the same readings we see. If either of us activates our weapons, we risk destroying everything, not just our enemies, but the very fabric of space itself. Is that what the Concordat was built for? To end all things in the name of pride?" For a long moment, silence filled the quantum channels. Then, another voice cut through. "High Commander Lysix, First Speaker, our scientists confirm the humans' readings. We cannot proceed. You dare countermand me?" Vex raged. "I am First Speaker. You are relieved." Lysix's tone was firm. "By ancient protocol and the will of the Council, you are unfit to lead in this crisis. Power down the Starforge. Now." In the core chamber, Sarah watched as the devastating energy buildup began to subside. "Admiral, the Starforge is powering down. Repeat, the weapon is shutting down." Across space, the ancient Concordat warships ceased their attacks. The quantum mesh network hummed with reports of enemy forces standing down, of battles ending not in destruction, but in an uneasy silence. Hours later, representatives of both sides met aboard a neutral station in unclaimed space. The Concordat, led now by Lysix, faced Ambassador Maya Chen and Admiral James Chen across a table of both crystalline and Terran design. "The galaxy must change," Maya stated firmly. "The time of empires built on conquest and subjugation is over. But change doesn't have to mean destruction." Lysix's crystalline form shifted thoughtfully. "What do you propose?" "A new alliance," Maya replied. "Not built on dominance, but on cooperation. The Concordats' experience, combined with humanity's innovation. Together, we could lift up the species that have suffered under the old order, create something better than either of us could achieve alone." "And if we refuse?" Lysix asked, though their tone suggested they already knew the answer. "Then we remain enemies," James said simply. "And next time, we might not step back from the brink." The negotiations lasted for days, but in the end, the choice was clear. The Concordat would survive, but transformed. The Empire of Conquest would become something new, a partnership of species working together to rebuild what had almost been destroyed. Sarah Connor and her team, watching from their ship as the accords were signed, felt the weight of how close they'd come to absolute destruction. Was it worth it? Her second-in-command asked. All the preparation, the sacrifices, the risk. Sarah looked out at the stars, stars that would continue to shine because both sides had finally chosen a better path. We proved something today. Not just that humanity could stand against the most powerful empire in space, but that we could do what they never managed in all their millennia of power. What's that? We could choose to be better than our fears, better than our pride. She smiled slightly. Maybe that's the real victory. The quantum mesh network carried news of the accords across space. On 100 worlds, beings who had lived under Concordat rule for generations looked to the stars with new hope. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had been the catalyst not just for revolution, but for transformation. The dawn of a new era had begun.